meeting of the Faculty Senate will come to order. Welcome, everybody. Please set your cell phones or other electronic devices to silent at this time. Before we begin taking roll from the divisional campuses, let us remind our colleagues that there is a slight delay, so please begin your reporting with Potomac State or WVU Tech. Can't hear me. I'm getting motions that you can. What about now? Okay. All right. Please start your reporting with Potomac State or WVU Tech votes and then the number so that we don't miss any important information. Potomac State, how many are present?
2 are present, Wilcox and Merrifield.
Thank you. And WVU Tech, how many are present?
3 are present, Barco, Raitt, and Davari.
Okay, thank you. And we have a quorum for today. First up, we have approval of the minutes from the June 13th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Okay, hearing no corrections, the minutes are approved as written. Next, we have our report from President Gee.
Thank you very much, Lena. Can you hear this all right? There's got a bit of a echo or something like that. I don't know if it's all right. I appreciate that. So, anyway, thank you very much. Beginning of the semester, a lot of stuff going on, as you well know, and a lot of things. I would just note that this weekend, or this week right now, we have 3 things that I think are important. We have come to closure on assuming responsibility for the Blanchette Rockefeller Neurological Institute, which is extremely important because it gives us an opportunity to really focus on our neuroscience program up to this point that we've had not been able to at the level we wanted to. The second thing is the fact that we haven't the Midwestern Energy Institute program. Secretary Moniz, the Secretary of Energy, was here with us today. Senator Manchin, Congressman McKinley. We had a number of dignitaries here talking about how do we really refocus the issue of clean and positive energy for this sector of the country, and obviously we are in the middle of that. And the third is the fact that right here, as you came through, you saw that we are having a major conference on Pearl Buck, a West Virginian who, of course, went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for the Good Earth, and we are pleased. So we have neuroscience and energy and humanities all in one combination, and not unusual for the university. So I want to talk a bit about our budget, if I may. I have sent out a note to everyone indicating that over the next 3 years that we're determined to take about $45 million out of our budget, and lest that come as a surprise to you. As you know, these are challenging times for higher education in general, but our intent is to do this in order to be able to make certain that we can continue to support the right things at the institution, the things in which we want to grow, our academic programs, et cetera. And also, it's a way for us to finally face the reality that we have too many people doing too few things, in the sense that we have a bureaucracy which is creating too much of an overhang, and we have to really get ourselves refocused. Now, if I had a printing press in the basement, as your president, I would still do the same thing. I want you to understand this. I'll just give you an example. If you notice at the University of California at Berkeley, they all of a sudden, surprisingly, had a $150 million deficit. Their chancellors resigned, the university's in disarray, great institution. And the reason is the fact they just never faced that reality. Whether you're in California with lots of money, or whether you're in West Virginia with not as much money, we have to face the fact that public higher education has a structural deficit. So how do we deal with it? And it's fairly simple. One is the fact that we support the things that we think are critical, our faculty, our staff, our students, continuing to grow those areas that we've designated as growth areas. We do 2 other things. One, we continue to go to the state and say, you have to release us from all of the administrative encumbrances and regulatory encumbrances we have. The third thing is we have to find and be much more entrepreneurial in terms of our funding efforts. That's one of the reasons that we've had the Secretary of Energy here today. We want to make certain that as we have reached the R1 status that we continue to grow in that area and that we do a number of things. So the issue is a pretty simple one. How do we increase quality and how do we decrease costs? Now, as a university president, I've said this to some of you before, I know how to increase quality if given a lot of money. I had two institutions, both Brown and Vanderbilt, that had a lot of money, and we just would increase the cost of doing business. You know, the tuition at Brown was $67,000 when I left, and at Vanderbilt was $65,000. We can't afford that, nor will the people of this state sustain that, nor will the people in public education sustain that. That's one of the reasons that we have one of the presidential candidates doing better than expected, is that there is a revolution out there. And so we have to meet that. So what we have to do is we have to start making choices. That means that, for example, not everyone needs to have their own financial officers. Not everyone needs to have this. Not everyone needs to have that. We all don't need to have our own communication officers. We need to start remassing ourselves so that we take the power of the institution and grow it that way, and grow it accordingly, and that we, at the same time, that we make certain that we use the resources that we have in a much wiser way. I've always said that the future of this university is to be a ballerina, not an elephant, and the faster we can come that way, the better. So this is a 3-year process. We'll go through it. We'll be better at the end of it. And we'll also be able to meet the obligations that we have committed to and will continue to commit to over the next period of time. But it's going to require all of us, because each of you know, I always point out the fact that I have an office, I have a parking space, and I live in subsidized public housing. What do I know? I don't know anything about what you experience, but I do know that the experiences have to be ones that you experience, and you know where the encumbrances are, you know where the roadblocks are, you know that we can make things a lot simpler, and you know by doing so that we can substantially increase our quality and save in doing so. So that is the challenge that I give to all of you. And this is going to be an exercise in opportunity, and I look at it that way. Saying that, I would really welcome any questions that any of you may have. It's always a time to ask questions. Yes. Yes, sir. Tell me your... Oh, I know who you are. Hey, Joe. How are you?
Hi, President Key.
How are you?
I don't normally ask questions, but my faculty are quite concerned, and they asked me to ask a few questions of you.
Please do.
In your statement today, you explained that the university's budget is in trouble somewhat because of declining state support, but also because it appears, I guess, less than expected revenues from tuition because of competition and discounts from scholarships and so on, but also because of additional operating costs for PIA and so forth. And I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more at this campus conversation that's coming up, although unfortunately I won't be here for that, but I'm sure we'll learn a bit more then. But I wondered if you could share with us a little more, you know, in the interest of transparency and just to understand this situation, a little more about where those costs, where those cuts are coming from. In other words, you know, how much of this is because of state cut in state support, how much is because of the trouble or problem with tuition, how much because of operating costs and so forth. And then a second question that they had to share with you is there somewhere online that the faculty and the public can go to find out the details of the university's yearly revenues and expenses so that we could learn more, again, in the interest of transparency, about these costs?
Let me answer the latter. That's one of the parts of our conversation you'll have. Everyone will have a fairly robust, which will then be online, a very robust review of all of our budgetary issues. Now, let me, you know, I have been through this exercise a lot of times. Is our situation challenging? Yes. Is our situation as bad as a number of institutions now that they're facing, or ones that I've faced? Absolutely not. That's the reason we're doing what we're doing right now. As I say, I could be the chancellor of the University of California, Berkeley, and wait until the roof falls in, and then all of a sudden have to cut everything off. I don't intend on having that kind of structural deficit. So we're going through it now. The priorities of the institution will remain. Our priorities are the fact that we're going to continue to hire and hire well. We're going to continue to focus on our salaries and getting our salaries equitable. We're going to continue to try to attract the very best and brightest in the country. That means that we're going to have to, that means we're going to continue to put a lot of money and a lot of energy and a lot of time into maintaining and increasing our research activities, our Research One activities, because we think that that's important as a land-grant institution to discover the cure for cancer, but also the other part of it is to deliver it to McDowell County. And it's those issues. So the kind of regular issues that faculty deal with, we are making even a more substantial commitment. What we are not committing to is to doing a number of the peripheral issues that may need to be combined in different ways. So as I said, not everyone needs to have their own X, Y, and Z. Not everyone needs to have administrative areas or structural areas that simply do not contribute to research, teaching, and to our service. Now to our service function. Now, as you know, we have the largest class in our history, and the best academically prepared. That came at a cost, and that at the same time, over time, those will be revenues from the tuition side that will greatly enhance where we are. You know, last year we were down about 400 students from where we should have been. We are now up about 400 or 500 students, and of course we have doubled the number of students in our honors program. But that requires us to be competitive on the scholarship side. In terms of graduate education, we're trying to be much more competitive in terms of our graduate stipends. So where does the money come from? The money comes from the structural overhead that we have built up over time. Think of it this way. The way I think about it is that I love to shop. And I shop too damn much, but I love to. And then all of a sudden I realized that I'd run out of space in my closet, so I had to empty out my closet and get rid of a few things that were just vestiges from the old thing, vestiges from the old days, vestiges from things that I really didn't need to have. And that's what we're doing. We're cleaning out our closet so that we can be agile and a bit more attuned to the cycle that we're going to be facing. And when we do so, I think that we'll be better for it. But remember what I've said to everyone. I want you to listen to this. The intent is to get better, to increase quality, and to do it while we moderate our costs. Universities have never been asked to do that. It is antithetical to the nature of institutions. But we're going to have to do that, and that has to be our goal. And the reason we have to do that is the fact that we cannot sacrifice quality to quantity. We cannot sacrifice quality to just doing things the same damn way we've done it. And now we're going to have to make that change. And that $45 million could escalate to be $150 million unless we do it. And then we have a problem. But right now our problem is minor, growing to major, unless we make the decisions now to do what we're going to do.
Okay. But will there be, is there some way that
Yes.
faculty or public can have access to that kind of
Yes,
information?
absolutely. They will have that when, Joyce?
Well, I think as soon as the campus conversations start, then that information will be publicly available.
Yeah, but you know, it's been shared rather widely. We've had conversations widely with the deans and others. This didn't take place in the back room somewhere. We have had lots of conversations. Remember, we've also had these transformation teams going on. Where do we save money? Where do we get ourselves better? How do we do it? And it's a result of those 12 or 13 and all of these other things that are coming together, saying, now this is how we're going to approach it. And that will be available.
I appreciate that. I just mean like in terms of regular faculty who, you know, not just deans or even
No,
chairs and so on. but regular
everyone will
faculty.
have that access to that.
The campus conversations were designed exactly for the reason your microphone? Oh, okay.
That works.
Okay.
Thank you.
But the answer she's going to give you is the fact that that's the reason we're having the campus conversation. You put out the letter, tell you everyone where we're going to be, then we have the conversation to explain where it is, and that all goes up online, so everyone can take a look at it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Questions? Yes, sir. Tell me about you.
Nick Bowman, Everly College. And my faculty had a question, and they were wondering, so $45 million, right? It's a growing number, but we're capping it early, and a lot of what you said has made sense. Is there any sense at this stage on how much of that can be expected to be saved through right-sizing alone? I mean, I know that's hard.
Well, we intend on saving for, you know, I will tell you something, this will scare the hell out of you. I think we have $200 million worth of overhead we could take out and make the place better. And I'm irritated about the fact that we only set our goal at 45 million. I really think that we have a hell of a lot more we can take out and be a lot better. And I've done it before. I've done it at other institutions. That's one of the reasons I had to move. But anyway, anyway, and so the point that I'm trying to make to you is the fact that see what you're, you know, my colleagues, let me tell you something. What you're saying is, oh my God, this means we're taking money. No, what we're doing is we're changing our mindset. We're changing the way we're doing our business so that we don't have to deal with the draconian moment. And that's what we have to get into, because if we don't do that, we are going to have a draconian moment. We do not have one right now. And you know, it's been very easy for us to say, well, you know, we can do this, we can do that. But you know, I'm too old to do that. I want to leave the place better than I found it. And I'm very old, so that means that I don't have time to outlast all of you. So that is the answer. I mean, this is our time to finally say that the emperor has no clothes, that we really do have to reform and restructure higher education. We have to reinvent it, and we can start it right here. And this is not a bold move. Everyone says, well, you can't do that, and I say, why? Well, because that's not the way we do things in universities. Well, that's the reason universities are in dire financial strait, almost every one of them. How would you like to be a small, tuition-driven private institution right now? Your costs have gone up. No more students are coming. You are in serious trouble. That's the reason they're hanging on by a thread. We're not hanging on by a thread. We are going to have ourselves a good lifeline out there so that no matter what happens with the state, no matter what happens with the economy, no matter what happens with our fundraising, that we are a stable and financially secure institution, and we are that right now. So we're making a positive move in order to be able to make certain that we don't have to make a negative mood. And that's what everyone needs to understand. Now, you know, someone will say to me, oh, well, listen, you know, you have administrative overhead. Yes, you know, we do have administrative overhead. Of the 5 institutions that I've served as president, this university has the lowest administrative cost by a factor of 2 of any that I've served. I want to just say that again. So I don't want to hear all this thing, well, you know, you have too many X, Y, or Z. We don't, frankly, we are under-administered. You won't think that, but compared with other places, that's one of the reasons some of them are in trouble. So we start with a different calculus. Our costs have risen rather dramatically in certain areas in terms of legal issues, in terms of regulatory issues, in terms of a variety of other things, and we're trying to get at that because we have this regulatory atmosphere. Those of you who have supported our present president like him a lot. He's been the most regulatory prone. He has caused the cost of higher education to go up dramatically. I'll just say that to you. So we have to deal with that. And the state does not, and the state has no money, and so therefore you have to deal with that. And then the university itself has the most Byzantine bureaucracy I have experienced in 36 years, and that's what we're going to get at, because we have at least 45 million. We have, I think we have a couple of $100 million worth of bureaucracy that we can really change around. But I've set the number very low because I didn't want to scare the hell out of everyone.
That helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't feel passionately about this. I think this is our time. We just need to make this happen. Let's get at it. So, any other questions?
Check with Potomac State.
Oh, hey, listen, do you, they fainted. Anyone have questions on the other, at Potomac State or at Beckley? I guess we're still in Montgomery Tech. I hear none. So anyway, I look forward to the conversations, but I hope you know that I feel very strongly and very passionately that we are not only doing the right thing, we're doing the essential thing for our future. It's this simple. We'll either be the architects of our future or we'll be victims of it. We need to be architects. I think it's that simple. Thank you very much.
Next, we have the report from Provost Joyce McConnell.
So the first of the campus conversations, for those of you who didn't have a chance yet to read the budget letter, is Tuesday, September 20th at noon here at the Erickson Center, and everything will be public. There will be public PowerPoints. You'll get to see everything. I do want to say that we've been working very hard throughout the spring to make sure that we can deliver the information to you as transparently and as understandably as possible. And Joe, do you want me to address any particular question?
I think it's going for, just knowing that nobody access to that information, not necessarily filtered, but access to data. And I guess the other question you're just wondering is how much of this crisis has to do state cuts, how much to do other factors.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think about it as the perfect storm in higher education. Some of it is, as the president has said, is within our control in terms of how we operate. A lot of it are factors that are converging suddenly, right? So the most obvious for us, I think, is the state budget. So when the state worked very hard this year, actually, and I want to give the legislature credit here. They cut us 4%, and they didn't cut us anymore. They were very, very committed to trying to hold the line. But that still resulted in that we're at only about 14% state funding now. So, and I think that's always worth saying out loud, because when I talk to alums, from the 1970s when we were almost exclusively state-supported with a little bit of tuition revenue, it's flopped dramatically. And I think that we have been so good in some ways of trying to be creative and making sure that everything continues to run and that we don't feel any dramatic impacts over time, that it's hard to absorb what it means to go from something in the 70s, in the 1970s, where you were, say, 80% state funded, now where you're 14% funded, but we are a public land grant university. And both the opportunities for a public land grant and the obligations of a public land grant are greater, right? We feel our mission very, very strongly, and that means keeping tuition reasonable as we possibly can, because we want to be accessible, and we have a commitment to being accessible. And it also means providing service, right? Some people will ask, well, what's the difference between this public institution's obligation to the state and our institution's obligation to the state? And the difference is really quite clear. We're the land grant. That means that there are a lot of ways in which we give back to the state, and it's our obligation to give back to the state. That gets to be both a wonderful opportunity but a challenge as your state contribution starts to shrink. So I would say state first. I would say the president is absolutely right that the degree of regulation of higher education, both for good reasons and reasons we're not so sure are for the best, have put tremendous strains administratively on reporting in higher education. And I could get down in the weeds and give you all kinds of examples. It's almost almost unimaginable sometimes how it's like a small drop. They think it's a small regulation, and it goes ripples through an institution our size, causing all kinds of issues. The state made a decision, getting down to state regulation, the state made a decision it was going to go to a different kind of computing system for processing payroll, et cetera. And that system's called West Virginia OASIS. That cost us a huge amount of money and continues to cost us a huge amount of money. When PEIA premiums go up, not only individual premiums go up for faculty members, which we hate, but they also go up on our side for the match or for the employer contribution, which a lot of times people don't think about, that becomes a greater obligation to us financially than we've had before. So you've got the West Virginia economy. That's something we're all struggling with, but we do have something positive in that the legislature held the line on higher ed and seems to care very, very deeply about education in the state, and that's a good place to be. Unlike some other states, which have actually, their higher education institutions have really been under a kind of attack. That has not happened here. And we're very fortunate for that. But you've got the state economy, you've got state regulation, you've got federal economy, and you've got federal regulation. And then you have exactly what the president said, which is something that I think about a lot, which is for a long time the institution, in terms of its bureaucracy, has evolved. And we haven't actually stepped back to say, how do we wrap our arms around this, wrestle it to the ground, and make it work the best way we can for the least amount of money? And so an example I like to use, because I think it's always good to start with ourselves, the provost's office has had its own budget office, which was great. We kept everybody super busy. But we decided one of the things we could do that would save some money is we collapsed a lot of the high-level budget offices into one budget office. Make it much more efficient, make it depth in terms of the number of people who are staffing. It's so an example, one frustration, I know people here, you call someone who's in charge of something and it can't get done because that person's on vacation. Right? That's extremely frustrating. If we consolidate and actually create a second layer, when that person's on vacation, someone's there to do what needs to be done. But if we don't consolidate these operations, we're going to continue to suffer from those kinds of efficiencies. Those are some small examples, but I know that they're examples that you've struggled with, Joe, must have as chair. What I also think is really important that the president said, and I want to reemphasize, is that none of the goals or vision that we've had is in any way being rocked by this attempt to try to get our budget straight. We remain as dedicated as we have been to what it is we've been articulating over the last year. And that includes issues like salary equity, which we really have been trying to work on. And we do see some examples of it getting better in pockets. Now we need to grow it and make it bigger. But if we can actually hold the line on spending and save this $45 million going forward and right-size ourselves, then we have some great opportunities. And I want to talk about this other side. So we've been talking about the reallocation or the slimming down or slicing away of things. Let me talk about the other side of it, which is the more revenue we generate, the less we'll have to do on the other side, right? So one of the things you hear about, and I didn't articulate this as well, but this idea that since 2008, the market for higher education and applications for higher education in certain sectors has actually declined, right? If you remember back to 2008 when the market crashed, the first thing people started asking is, higher education even worth it? Remember those conversations? Well, we started to see the effect of that in a decline in applications. We made a decision that we were going to counter that because obviously we believe that higher education matters. If we can continue to grow enrollment and we continue to also grow quality, we're in the best spot that we could possibly be in because the impact on the budget isn't as great, right? We counter the need for any kind of budget cuts. So the fact that we were able to bring in 5,200 freshmen this year, the most qualified class, at least since we've been keeping track in the history of the university, is a huge achievement, right? Our GPA now is the highest it's been. It's 3.70 average. Our ACT has continued to go up like this. And if you look at it from 10 years ago, we have a significantly more qualified student body today than we did a decade ago. And that's really extraordinary. That does come at some cost, right? Because that comes in with tuition discounting and making sure that you're getting the right students here. And you can see it's very complex, which is why we want to have these campus conversations so that you can see all the moving parts, because there's a lot coming into it. The honors freshman class, you probably heard, is up 22%. That's this year, 22% this year. If we include last year, the honors class is up 55%. It now makes up 17.3% of the entire university. It's like huge, right? So if you look at who's come in as freshmen and who are here and continue to be here as part of that honors band. This is all really wonderful because the better our students are and the more they are from all over West Virginia and all over the nation and all over the world, each student goes back and tells a story, and more students come. And we have one really concrete example of that. I don't know is there anyone in here who teaches in forensic sciences? No, okay. So here's one thing that's just really extraordinary. A couple of years ago, we started recruiting for forensic sciences because it was getting a lot of national recognition. We now have this incredible pipeline from California. You know, we were never able to attract California students before, but now we're getting this great pipeline. We're starting to see the same thing from Texas. So what everybody in this room is doing in terms of working to raise the profile of the university, getting us to that Research One, being known as excellent teachers, all of the things you do are making a huge difference in who we're able to actually attract to the university. And one of the things we did this year, and I have to give our president some credit for this, actually. He came in as our new president, and he realized that we weren't using the Common App. We were only using our own app. And when you use the Common App, one of the things you do is you make yourself available to a much larger group of students out there who can simply check, yes, I want my application, go to WVU. Well, not only did that increase the number of applications we got, but the number of applications from a more diverse population went up 27%. So the number of freshmen we were able to meet that increased the diversity of our student body shot up. We're waiting on final numbers, otherwise I would give them to you, but it's, I think that that's really, really exciting. In terms of tech, one of the things, and I know some of the tech folks are here at this meeting, one of the things that was really a challenge for us was the legislature didn't approve the moving of tech to Beckley until May. As you know, as an academic, that's completely out of the cycle of recruitment, right? So within that very short period of recruitment, we thought we would be lucky if we got 150 students on the Beckley campus. We ended up with 197. And so that move to Beckley, that planting ourselves in the southern part of the state and really bringing tech to people who otherwise hadn't had access to it, that's a huge deal. We're seeing upticks in enrollment at Potomac State as well. So I really believe that we're at this moment where everybody has pitched in, everyone has put their shoulder to the wheel to make this the best place it can be and to get the word out that we're really starting to see some really positive momentum. The other thing we've seen, you remember last year we talked a lot about retention. We know that our retention rate went up 1%. And the more we can get our retention rate up, the more we hold on to students, the fewer budget issues we're going to have, because then we have more students staying and succeeding. And that takes all of us too. So we really have some good news, and we've planted all of the things that we need to have planted last year to keep us on this upward trajectory. So that's, for all of you who are getting budget news, you may be allowing it to sort of make you less optimistic. We're extremely optimistic because we have been putting things in place to make a difference, and we really think that they will. I have a lot of other news to tell you, but I know my report time I've probably exceeded, and Lena's giving me, she's trying to be nice to me, right? I have a lot of remarks that I wanted to update you on, but I won't take up any more time. But I'm happy to answer any questions. And if Potomac State or Tech have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those first. I couldn't hear you, but I could read your lips. You said we have no questions. Okay, go ahead.
No questions from Tech.
No questions from Tech? Okay, now I'll turn to our audience. Anyone here have a question? I'm happy to entertain it. Thank you. I hope I will. I know that it's not always possible for everyone to attend things on short notice, but I hope either you or someone you trust who can represent you will come to the campus conversation so that we can start to get all of the information in front of you. Thank you.
Again, I want to say welcome to the first Senate meeting of the year, particularly to those senators who have started their term and this is their first meeting. Our committees have been working since the beginning of the semester on a number of important items. We have a couple of things that are coming to fruition this year, including the full implementation of the new Jeff curriculum, and the former GECO, now JeffCo, is working on reviewing that and some of their processes that have changed, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from them throughout the semester. The TACO committee is working on the full implementation of the electronic SEI over the semester, and so I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that. And then, not related to committees, but there are a number of proposed changes to the faculty constitution that we'll be looking at the faculty assembly meeting in October. I do have a few announcements. In the academic calendar for the 2016-17 year, which we approved in June of 2015, December commencement was incorrectly listed as Saturday, December 17th. So please be aware that the correct date for December commencement is Friday, December 16th, 2016. I've been advised we don't need to take any formal action, but just please make sure that everyone is aware that the correct date for commencement is Friday, December 16th. As you probably know, as of last spring semester, we have a new faculty ombudsman. Law professor Tom Patrick is the new faculty ombuds, and he's a professor from the College of Law. We are working on getting some information up on our website about how to contact Tom if you need to, under the resources for Faculty Senate, so that should be up shortly. Finally, CB Wilson is looking for volunteers for the University Promotion and Tenure Committee. We are looking for at least 5 faculty members to be selected to serve on that committee. There was a slightly larger committee last year, and that worked out well. So the final number is a little bit tentative. We will be specifically looking for 1 member from WVU Tech to serve on that committee. If you are serving on your department or college level P&T, or you're up for promotion this year, you're not eligible to serve on the university P&T committee. If anybody has any questions about that, they can contact CB, or I would be happy to pass your name along if you would like me to. Does anybody have any questions? Anyone on the divisional campuses, either divisional campus, have questions? Okay, next we have the curriculum committee report, and the chair recognizes Karen Haynes to give that report.
No? Okay, now, good, all right. Karen Haynes, Communication Sciences and Disorders. And I submit for your acceptance Annex 1. This is our annual report for last year. And you will see that last year that we submitted 250 courses forward to Faculty Senate that were new courses, 39 course changes, 159 course alterations, 30 course drops, 10 capstone courses, 2 new subject codes, 7 new minors, 1 minor revision, 1 new degree, 9 new majors, and 8 changes in degrees and majors. And our goals this year, of course, are to continue to review the courses and work with programs, and we'll also be working with harmonization, and I believe we have a presentation on that later.
Okay. Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 1? Are there any questions from Potomac State? Okay. Any questions from WVU Tech? Okay. Hearing no further questions, Annex 1 is accepted. Next, we have the Jeff Coe report with Lisa DiBartolomeo.
How many of you have a student, an advisee who switched from GEC to Jeff? Raise your hand. Yeah. I think anecdotally, I've been hearing a lot of stories. Students have been coming into my office not knowing that I kind of know this inside and out, and they say, oh, there's this new thing called the Jeff, and it's awesome. I'm going to get to graduate early. So I think we're going to be working with the registrar's office to find out how many students who are already in the pipeline have switched. So if you have similar stories, please send them along. So we have a couple of updates. And Lou, if you would just stand up for a second. So thanks to Lou Slimak, we will be having, he's in the TLC, he's the new assessment czar. Your regular title is too long. Plus I do Russian, so you're the assessment czar. He is going to be working on a Jeff assessment project, and that will be a joint project between Potomac State and the Honors College here in Morgantown. So that will give us a pilot project to figure out what we're doing, how well we're doing it, all of that sort of thing. Now that harmonization has been completed, and big shout out to Taylor and Sue and all the people at the regional campuses who've been working on this so hard, the people here, the chairs, everybody who spent the summer doing a lot of this. Now we're going to be ready to work your courses through the system. So if you have an existing course that has been transferred into the Jeff from the GEC, we're going to be coming after you and working with you, also again with the help from TLC and Tracy Beckley, to get you through the system, to get you to figure out how to make your course Jeffy as opposed to GEC-ish. We also will be working on an outline and a more helpful guide to figure out how to Jeffify and Leapify your courses. And we are discussing slight revisions on the WVU Jeff goals to bring them more in line with the LEAP goals. So that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Up next, we have Chris Mayo from the LGBTQ Center.
Hi, everybody. It's very hard to follow children, dogs, and bad budget news. But I do want to say, for 25 years, members of the WVU community have been trying to put together an LGBTQ center, and now we have one. So we are very happy about this. We would very much like you all to come to our grand opening on September 21st at 6 p.m. And we want you to know that we are here to help with faculty, staff, and students any issues that they have related to sexuality or gender identity, or just to use this as a resource in your classes. We're very happy that we're here. We are very happy that the community has been welcoming so far very nicely. And I just ask you, please contact us. We're in the ground floor of Hodges Hall. And again, we are willing to help in any capacity that we possibly can. One thing that I know from my research is that the more support we give students, the better they are at staying at university. So we also see ourselves as very much being part of the student retention team, but also recruitment of faculty and staff as well. Thanks.
While Chris is here, does anyone have any questions about the LGBTQ Center? Okay.
Come down, there's always cookies in my desk, so.
All right. All right, thank you. Next, we have information about the WVU Culture Survey with Tony Christian.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Christian. I'm filling in for Chris DeBoard, our Vice President of Talent and Culture. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here this afternoon. On Monday, October the 3rd, WVU will be conducting its first culture survey. The results are to help us establish and set priorities, give us a benchmark to gauge the effectiveness of our ongoing efforts to create a stronger WVU. This will be an annual survey, and it will help us objectively identify the healthy cultural behaviors we have and those behaviors we hope to improve upon. The WVU has chosen Sen Delaney to conduct this survey. So it's an independent survey. They will actually be the ones sending the survey out, and they will be the ones collecting the results. No one here at WVU will have access to that information. They will just be putting an aggregate of information. They will be randomly surveying 2,000 employees. And that will include employees here at WVU, as well as at Tech, and as well as at Potomac State. So it'll be all the campuses that will be surveyed in this total of 2,000. It will be done this year, and then it'll be redone each year to establish a base. The survey will run from October the 3rd through October the 14th. And you will receive an invitation. Now, not everyone in this room will receive an invitation. There may be some units, they may not receive anything. And then there may be some that may be 2 or 3. Then the following year, another 2,000 employees will be surveyed as well. We will be capturing those results. They'll actually send them to us. And then at the first of the year, those results will be shared with everybody. What we've done well and what we hope to improve upon. I was asked in another meeting, how will this compare to a survey that was conducted by called COACH, the Collaborative on Academic Careers in Higher Education? I believe many of you participated in that. The difference is COACH is a satisfaction survey. Faculty report satisfaction on 27 different indexes that were benchmarked against other institutions. The Sen Delaney, the survey that we're doing here at WVU, the culture survey, it's a culture survey, not a satisfaction survey. There will be no open-ended questions. There's going to be no place to write any comments. It's basically radial buttons, and you rank, and you list, you indicate your belief or your perceptions. This will provide, the survey is being conducted, so it'll provide an impartial view of WVU's healthy and unhealthy culture behaviors and the motivational factors behind them. The survey will actually manage 7 components is what they'll be looking at: alignment, performance orientation, teamwork and collaboration, openness to change, ethics and integrity, organizational health, like trust, positive energy, service, and commitment to others. That's what the culture survey will be measuring. So if you receive an email, send Delaney, it'll actually come from Send Delaney. You will see an announcement going out next week. Actually, the president will be sending out an announcement next week. And then there'll be follow-up reminders from an email vanity account called WVU Culture Survey. Those are only reminders. The actual survey will come from Send Delaney. So I'll be putting that information out here to make sure everyone understands it's not coming from anyone here at WVU. The survey, again, will make sure that all the results are all shared, the good, all the positive and anything that we want to work toward, and then we'll be measuring that a year out to make sure that are we working toward what we're trying to. Are there any questions at all regarding the cultural survey? Yes.
Isn't one of the big differences also from coaches, this is not just faculty, it's also employees?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all employees, so it's faculty and the staff, all the faculty and the support staff. So 2,000, and we will not know. They'll actually do all the random selection. What we actually provide them are all of your names and your email addresses is what we provide. And whether you're faculty or faculty support is what we provide to them. Any questions here? How about Potomac State or Tech? Any questions?
We have no questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Next, we have another for information item about open access resources and open access author fund with Karen Diaz.
Good afternoon, I'm Karen Diaz. I'm a fairly new member of the WVU team here, having started in the libraries in January of last year. This is my first attendance at this meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I wanted to let you all know that the library has started a few initiatives to try to build community around open access here at WVU. And if you probably have all heard of this movement, this is a combination of people sort of trying to deal with the rising costs of the publication industry, the publishing industry, along with new opportunities that we have for how we publish and share material with each other. In the academic environment, we kind of feel some of the challenges that have led us to open access in a couple of ways. Specifically in the libraries, we deal with regular increases to our costs to provide scholarly materials to you as you're doing your research. So for the same amount of material every year, we are paying more and more for that same material. Our students are challenged around issues that open access can help with because they, as you probably know, they have to pay very high costs for their textbooks. And in fact, we see in the publishing industry that the cost of textbooks are rising higher. The rate of inflation for textbooks is higher than even the healthcare industry. So the inflation rate is just kind of crazy for our students. So this is beyond tuition, yet another expense that they have to manage. And around dealing with open access, it's really the faculty who hold the most power in terms of how we move in terms of working through the challenges that we have. You have choices around where you publish your scholarship. Increasingly, there are high-quality, peer-reviewed opportunities for publishing in open access venues. And you also have ownership over how your students, what materials you assign to your students in your classes, and whether they are going to be materials they'd have to purchase, or if there are opportunities for you to provide them with no-cost materials or very low-cost materials. And so what we would like to do is to create some community to raise awareness around these issues, raise awareness of opportunities that you have for participating in open access. So one of the things that we have going on in the libraries right now is we're running a pilot called the Open Access Author Fund that our librarian, Linda Blake, has done a great job of pulling together. This is a fund where we are allowing faculty to apply for funding for paying your article publishing costs if you are publishing in an open access venue. There are some restrictions around that and more information available online, but we are running this pilot partly to see what all the faculty are doing and to start determining what are some ways that we can perhaps do something that makes this challenge more sustainable on campus. The other thing that we have done is to, and I should just say with the Open Access Author Fund, we have put together a nice review committee of faculty and librarians to look at those materials and help the library with recommendations of how we should move forward with this kind of work. The Open Textbook Initiative is something that we are doing. We started last week with bringing in a couple folks from the Open Textbook Network to do some professional development around what does it mean to adopt open textbooks in your classroom and assign them to your students. What are the opportunities that exist there? How might you get more involved in this work? And we had 19 faculty attend that workshop. Many of them are also, as a follow-up, going to be writing reviews of open textbooks that exist in the Open Textbook Library. We would like to run some more workshops of this sort on campus and plan to be advertising those in the future as well so that we can encourage further adoption of these. And then finally, we have a number of events that we will be hosting in October during what is known as International Open Access Week. So this is a week that campuses all over the globe participate in, and it's meant to increase awareness and understanding of open access issues. We're doing this in collaboration with Cheryl Ball and the Digital Publishing Institute, which is affiliated with the libraries as well. And I left a brochure out on the front table like this that has information about all of these initiatives. With URLs, I would recommend that you go to the URLs for updated information. Not everything is complete in here, but just to let you know of the kinds of things that are going on. And also encourage you to ask me questions if you have any right now. Are there questions? Any questions from the divisional campuses?
No questions.
Right. Thank you.
Next, we have our update on harmonization from Taylor Richmond and Sue Perutz.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and actually, thank all of you. This has been a tremendous project that we've had to work with in a very short time frame. But it certainly is one of those challenges that we talk about bureaucracy busters. So it was timely for us to bring all of the campuses together for a transfer agreement and just so the regional campuses can be participants in degree works and other transfer equivalencies that we're working on. So this was a huge project. And I want to give Taylor the opportunity to talk to you about where the project is because it's up for a vote at the next Senate meeting. So thank you all for your efforts. And here's Taylor, and thank Taylor for all of his patience. And I think you will all agree his graciousness and leadership in bringing this project to fruition. Taylor?
Thank you, Dr. Perutz. And our past chair gave me a little bit of credit. We haven't crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's just yet, but the light is at the end of the tunnel. As Dr. Perutz said, the whole goal of Project of Harmonization was really to bring degree works to our regional campuses. Many of you, your advisors, work with that tool very closely and know the benefits that it has in advising, and we want to provide that to our divisional campuses as well. And in order to do that, we must also share Banner with them, and it must be aligned within all the key attributes within that program. So if a course at Morgantown is a 4-credit course with 3 prerequisites, and at Potomac State it's a 3-hour course with 2 prerequisites, Banner has an issue with that, and DegreeWorks will not work when we bring that all online for the next year. So the initial purpose of this project was to vet all of our shared courses and make sure those discrepancies were no longer. We then decided that while we were doing that, we would also look at the course content, so the learning outcomes and what was actually being taught within those courses were also aligned. And one of the ways we did that was we utilized the Higher Education Policy Commission's Series 21 70% threshold. And if you know anything about transfer credit, it's a new mandate from the state that says if a sending institution's course is 70% aligned with the learning outcomes of the receiving institutions, it must be received as equivalent. And as we had been treating on the surface our regional campuses credits as transfer, we decided to utilize that threshold in aligning our coursework. So we first, realizing the deadline of next fall registration was coming up very quickly, we needed to find both an expedient and effective process to do both of those things. So what we did was we worked with ITS, and we developed a process whereby we identified 673 courses that needed review. And you'll see that 250 of those were shared with us in Potomac State, 253 with us in Tech, and 170 of those shared among all 3 campuses. So in order to align those and make sure that they're all harmonized, we decided the easiest and most effective and expedient way was for Morgantown to disseminate our syllabi to the regional campuses for their review to confirm that alignment. This was not done in a way so that Morgantown was telling the regional campuses what to do or how to do it, but put the onus a little bit on both sides of the coin and say, here's what we're doing in Morgantown. If you are different, please let us know. So we gave the chairs of the various departments at our regional campuses the task with working with their faculty to review the syllabi that we sent them and put the courses in one of 3 categories. Either the course was already at or above the 70% threshold, it was very close and needed to be discussed, or the courses had drifted so far apart that we actually needed different course numbers altogether. So what we did was ITS developed a SharePoint application for us where we were able to disseminate the information to our regional faculty. They reviewed not only the banner information and attributes, but they also reviewed the syllabi. They were given the option of the 3 choices to put those courses in those bins and then provide us with any comments of how to move forward. So the process, the result of phase 1 was we identified that 234 of those original 670 courses were already aligned and met that threshold and were ready to move forward. 186 of those courses were ones that our regional campus said, well, Banner may say that we teach those courses, but we haven't taught those courses in quite a while, nor do we plan to, so we can go ahead and remove those from the roster. And then we actually took some of those courses off and pushed those on to phase 2, and you'll see that included Statler and Nelson engineering courses, nursing as well, and then obviously PE and assigned topics were pretty straightforward also. Then phase 2 was collaborative discussions, and that's really been the key word, I think, for this whole process is collaborative. We wanted to make sure that whatever results came about of this project was working together among our faculty and creating conversations about our programs. So you'll see several departments had enough differences that actually warranted face-to-face discussions, and then handfuls of courses, that we'll talk about in a second, were actually needed to be done on a case-by-case basis. And really the third leg that we added on throughout this process was addressing HEPC's Series 21, which addresses remedial coursework and support for students at or below certain test score requirements, which we actually were looking forward to a report on from our faculty in the next week. So some of the collaborative meetings that we had were Statler and Nelson decided to go ahead and remove them from the first phase. They were going to handle theirs in-house, and they've been continuously meeting to harmonize and align their courseworks and different prerequisite differences. Biology met very early on because Tech actually utilizes a different general biology number that we do in their progression, so we met and discussed and aligned that process. Accounting we identified early as having many prerequisite differences there, but also with Econ 201 and 202, as well as some of the B Corps courses. Criminal justice and criminology had a lot of overlapping course titles, and then nursing handled theirs in-house as well. After that, we had dozens of courses spread across the campus that needed to be handled on a case-by-case basis in almost every undergraduate college and department. And that was done via emails with the respective faculty that oversaw those courses, the chairs and the associate deans, and they were all in the loop on all the changes that were going to be moving forward out of this project. So the ultimate goal of this project, when we're all said and done, is providing ultimately you and the registrar's office with 4 distinct lists of courses. The first list, which has already been provided to the curriculum committee, is the courses that are already at or above that 70% threshold that we already say we have been teaching these courses the same way, an agreement for years, and we're good to go. That's already been submitted. Then there are courses that need to be removed from our regional campuses that are no longer being taught there or here. And then the third list, which we're beginning to give to a curriculum committee and will be done by the next 2 weeks, are the alterations that we have coming out of this. And a majority, I would say somewhere between 85 and 90% of these alterations are just cascading prerequisite changes. So we changed the progression within Econ 201 and 202 with our regional campuses. Our Econ 201 and 202 are linear in progression, whereas our regional campuses do them interchangeably. So there are some upper division elective courses that have listed only 202 as the one prerequisite. So we have to go back and fix all those in case the student transfers or moves to Morgantown with only 202. So we have these cascading prerequisite changes to address. And then lastly, where we've had the collaborative discussions and we realized that we couldn't meet in the middle anywhere and we needed just altogether new course numbers, we have a small list of those courses as well. So where we are and what is left, since our initial 100 and some courses, we are at 368 have been harmonized, whether they are part of that initial list or we have worked together as a campus community to harmonize or align our courses. We have now 214 that can be removed from our rosters at the regional campuses. And you'll see a couple last issues that we have to address within only a handful of departments. Ultimately, depending on how those go, we're expecting 150 alterations and changes to be presented, and I would expect no more than 24 new course numbers to come out of these discussions as well. And then the final, as I said, the 4 lists will be provided to you. The registrars will make the change in banner and degree works, and that way by for registration for fall of 2017, we will actually be able to utilize degree works on our regional campuses. And I know discussions are already taking place within the executive committee and the curriculum committee about incorporating the regional campuses better in KIM and other processes so that we will all continue to be in harmony from here on out. So in the interest of time, I tried to go through that as quickly as possible, but it is a major project. And again, I want to thank all the faculty that I've had the extreme honor of working with, being an alumni and seeing how much our faculty care not only about being collaborative, but also student success. It was very honoring and humbling for me to have that opportunity, and I'll answer any questions that you may have about the process or where we are.
You'd actually like you ought to give yourselves a big round of applause for
Yeah.
all of the efforts this last year. I know this is a very short time frame, but I gotta admit, you all really surprised us with the collaboration and the great dialogue between the 3 campuses. So thank you.
Dr. Ravens, I'll ask, are there any questions from Potomac State?
No questions.
And any questions from Tech?
No questions.
All right. Say no more. Thank you all.
So, before I ask CB to come up, I do want to let everybody know that there will be an electronic survey going out soliciting your comments about the document that CB is getting ready to discuss, and that will be sent out through, it's a Qualtrics survey, it'll be sent out sometime later this week to all senators. So please be aware of that as you're hearing the discussion today. And so now, I'll invite CB to come up to talk about the alternate pathways to promotion and tenure document. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lena, and good afternoon, everyone. I know that this is on the agenda as for information, but I'd like to add a few remarks just to give you a little bit more perspective about this. First of all, the document is coming to you from the Faculty Incentives and Rewards Working Group. That's the FIR committee, okay, FIR. And the members of that group include Earl Seamy, Melanie Page, Lisa DeBartolomeo, Bob Griffith, Tara Hulsey, Paul Kreider, Russ Dean, Joyce McConnell, and myself. What you have before you has evolved over the past year. A number of these ideas have been floated at deans meetings, and then the document, as you see it, was shared with deans with a considerable amount of discussion over the summer and more elaborately early in this semester. We also shared the document with chairs at the Summer Chair Symposium, so we've already begun to get a fair amount of commentary. Coming to this body as a step to sharing it with the campus community for discussion. That is, we're not going to take an immediate vote. As I think some of you know, we are going to schedule campus-wide, and I'm using the term hearings not to confuse it with campus conversations, which is something different, obviously. But these will be held later in the semester. They'll be held on all 3 areas of the Morgantown campus in late September and on into October, and they will be discussed at the regional campuses as well. The details of the Morgantown activities will be included in the minutes of today's meeting and will be circulated to the entire faculty as well. I will be talking at the regional campuses when I make my annual fall visit to those campuses. Lena has already noted that there will be an online survey set up. I'm very comfortable with that, and near the end of the semester, or perhaps early in spring semester, our working group will reconvene and decide on next steps. So, I stress that the present version is simply a draft. I can tell you that we have had some lively discussions in the working group, and the group agreed that this language should be circulated in the manner that we've described. Now, let me make a couple of underlying assumptions about the 3 scenarios, basically, that you have in the document. First is, there is the assumption that if somebody does something in a superlative manner, they should be rewarded for it. This document suggests some ways in which that might happen. A second assumption is that the opportunity to be promoted or tenured in the ways described should be based on a process similar to one already a part of our present system. Rather than the candidate simply deciding to request consideration, there would be in place a plan for achieving desired outcomes that has been approved by the supervisor and the dean, and there would be a period of time during which the plan was to be achieved with metrics to demonstrate success. This is the process that presently exists to allow modifying the traditional pattern of significant contributions in teaching and research with at least reasonable contributions in service to become significant contributions in teaching and service with at least reasonable contributions in research. And that's already part of the university document. Now, to speak to the point of approvals for these various scenarios, for the first scenario, which is promotion to professor using significant contributions in administrative service as one of those 2 areas, the provost has the authority to implement this particular action. There is no restriction in Board of Governors Policy 2 or in HEPC Series 9 on such action, and the language of the faculty evaluation document does not prevent it. For many years, the provost's office has simply chosen not to interpret that language in such a way to allow it. It is included in this document more for information than anything else, although there could be still some adjustment to the language. In this scenario, the approvals of the dean and the provost are required. The dean would have to be convinced that such action would be in the best interest of the department and the college, as well as to the individual. Presently, some colleges normally require attainment of the professorial rank as a condition for such an appointment, and for those colleges, this scenario would not be needed. For the second scenario, promotion to professor using one area of high achievement rather than two would require a change in the present faculty evaluation document. Thus, it would require Senate approval, but neither Board of Governors nor HEPSI approval. The assumption here is that the bar for that one area would be higher than the present standard of significant contribution, and at least reasonable contributions would be required in the other two areas. Another assumption is that this type of action would be fairly limited, given that the individual department would still be expected to realize appropriate productivity and achievement in all mission areas. This would require appropriate accountability on the part of the department chair prior to his or her approval, which would then need approval from the dean and the provost. For the third scenario, achievement of tenure by a TAP or a CAP using the already existing single area of principal achievement would require a change in the present faculty evaluation document. Thus, it would require Senate approval. It would also require approval of both the WVU Board of Governors and HEPSI. The assumption here is that the bar for that one area would be higher than the present standard of significant contribution, similar to that of the previous scenario. For both the second and third scenarios, departments and colleges would have to define the higher standard, that is, in the present document, the one that I arbitrarily used the term outstanding. By the way, we are still working on the previous proposal of extending terms for TAPS beyond the present 3-year limit, and the provost is engaged in conversations with the chancellor of HEPSI to determine exactly how best to proceed. Finally, as previously noted, the ideas presented here in the document have generated lively conversations in the FER group and the Dean's Council, and we expect that to continue as we engage in the hearings and/or conversations, as you choose to call them. At this point, then, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Sammy, College of Media. Do you have any numbers or percentages as to how many research one universities have same or similar system to the one that?
We have not done a survey, but my sense is that it would be, this plan would be pretty much out of the box.
Out of the box, meaning that we are the only one, or we are among the few?
We would be, if there are others doing this, it would be very few, I think.
So this is Richard Turton. I guess one question I had was that for the third issue, essentially going to tenured teaching professor, why are research professors not included in that?
Well, on the first go-round, what we believe is that, and I think this is fairly accurate, is that most of the research professors, most of the RAPs are on soft money. And so that could complicate things, but I know, as I've already begun to gather some comments, that there is some feeling about including RAPs in this document. So we've made notes of that, and we'll continue that conversation.
So I can infer from that that all the TAPs are on hard money?
As far as I know, yes.
Really?
They're on state money. Or, well, they're on central provost office money.
Okay.
Yeah. They are not generally subsidized by external grants.
Okay. I learned something.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Dave Hauser, Eberly. In your presentation, you sort of indicated that the tap cap motion to tenure was kind of like the option 2, in other words, one outstanding thing. So can you articulate some of the differences then between sort of option 2 and option 3, since you sort of indicated that they were similar to each other?
Well, I think that certainly in the second option that there would still be expectations in both of the other 2 areas. But possibly on the TAP side, for example, right now, it would be theoretically possible, well, it is not theoretically, the standard for promotion for TAPs is typically teaching and, for most people, service. We modified that in the more recent document to allow for that balance of 20% to be teaching and or, wait a minute, research and or service, depending on how that was worked out at the departmental level. So there is clearly one difference, but I think the idea here is that whatever this higher standard is would be similar in both of those scenarios. And the individual departments would have to work that out in conjunction with their college dean's office.
And you're anticipating that it's at the unit level, at the college level, or at the central level that that articulation of outstanding, the definition would be created?
I think we'd have to start at the unit level. And that would have to be approved through the system, of course. Anything from either of the regional campuses? All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing many of you at our hearings or conversations. Thank you.
If there are no further questions about Annex 2, which was the document itself, we will call Annex 2 filed for the minutes. Okay. Next up, we have the Advisory Council Faculty Report from Roy Nutter.
Roy Nutter, Statler College, and your ACF rep. I think I've mentioned this before. There's really not much going on with the legislature at the moment. Everybody's waiting to see what happens with the elections. But before you, there is a document that lists the higher education faculty issues that the ACF would like to put forth, and what they're looking for is your approval. There are 4, 2 for the legislature, and 2 for HEPC and our institutions. With that, I request approval.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions about the document first? Okay. Is there a motion to approve Annex 3, which is the 2016-17 ACF faculty issues document?
Madam Chair, I move we approve Annex 3.
All right. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 9 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech, how do you vote?
We have 4 ayes.
All right, thank you. Annex 3 is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, next we have the Board of Governors report from Stan Howman.
The Board of Governors meeting was held last week on Thursday and Friday. One of the things that we got to do was attend the dedication of the new ag school. I'm an alum of that ag school, and I can tell you that when I interviewed there in 2000, when I came back, that walking in there, as Yogi Berra said, was deja vu all over again. Other than a new coat of paint, it was just exactly the same as it had been for a long time. So this was a building that was very sorely needed, and it makes a wonderful addition to the revitalized Evansdale campus. If you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to wander in there and look around. We also got to hear a lot of good things about our divisional campuses from Potomac State, from General Orlikoff. As Provost McConnell said, enrollment there is higher than expected. They've also received some generous gifts from a donor, which included money and farmland, so that is exciting. Tech is also, as mentioned, their enrollment is greater than expected in the process of moving that entire campus to Beckley, which, when you think about that, that is an amazing undertaking, and Carolyn Long is doing a really amazing job in that capacity. And the last thing that I would point out, to keep this brief, we were informed a little bit about the relief efforts in response to the flood this summer. WVU sent 10 tractor and trailer loads of material and 8 to 12 vans or truckloads of materials, and really spent many, many hours of individual volunteer service hours to help the flooded areas of the state. In addition, about 2,200 students were identified by zip code to ensure that those students' financial aid issues were met if special need was needed. And we were told that Ken Kendrick's $500,000 challenge was met for flood relief, which were all really great things. And to add to that, we were told that greater than 3,000 freshman students participated in service events during Welcome Week, which is really an encouraging aspect of that whole event. So with that, I'll conclude my report.
Is there any questions about the Board of Governors report? Okay, thank you. All right. Is there any new business? If there is no new business, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All right. Thank you.